This is part one of the Found Mosaic project. And so for this week, this assignment is going to be to have a sketch of your idea of what you want your mosaic to be and some materials gathered. So this week is more of the planning stage of this project so that we can have a good solid plan before moving on to part two. So this is the sketch of my design that I'm going to be creating. And so I have a couple principles of design here happening. Remember, you want to choose at least one principle of design to focus on, but it's totally okay if you have more than one principle of design happening in your piece, but you want at least one primary principle of design. And remember, we're making those out of all the elements of art, so any combination of elements of art can be used to create your main principle of design. So for example, in my design here, my main focal point, this B here, is pretty symmetrical. It has a lot of balance, so the whole design, if I kind of cut it down the middle, it's the same on either side. It has a lot of formal balance or symmetry. So that's the main principle of design I'm focusing on. So I'm creating that principle of design. I'm creating balance with shape and line. Once I add my materials, color might help a little bit with creating that balance as well. But there's also a few other principles of design happening. So since my main focal point, my main subject here, this B, is fairly large and centered, it brings a lot of attention to it, so it creates emphasis. So I'm using some shape and line and size to create emphasis as well. I have a pattern in the background, and pattern is a form of rhythm. So I have line and shape creating a rhythm in the background with a pattern. I added that in the background because I didn't want my main subject to look like it was just kind of floating in the middle with not a lot going on around it. Remember, you want to fill up the entire space with your design, no matter what surface you're using. So that could just be the plain drawing paper we have in our material kit. I'm doing it on just some plain paper in a sketchbook. If you are planning on creating your piece on something larger or hardier for any kind of heavier materials, you could use cardboard or any other surface like that. You'll want to sketch out your design on that as well. So I'm filling up that whole space, so no matter what surface you're using, you want to make sure that you're filling that whole space with your design. So you want to think about what kind of things are going to be going on in the background or around your subject. You want to make sure edge to edge, you're filling that up with your design. So this is what you need. You need a sketch and you need some materials. So some found materials I have this silver foil, which I think I might use for pieces of the wings here. I have some lines happening, so maybe cutting out small pieces for all those shapes in between those lines in the wings. That might be a good idea to use. I have some yellow in this Funyun wrapper that I'm planning on using for the yellow in the bee. I have a few different values of yellow in this chip box here. And then I have some darker gold kind of candy wrappers or chocolate wrappers that I plan on using for the honeycombs in the background. I might add maybe some dark string around the edges of each of the honeycombs so that they don't all just blend in together after I add this on there. But that's one of those things that I'm going to see how it looks as I go when I work on the part 2 next week. A couple other things I might use. I have a couple different types of gold sequins that might work well for my bee. There's a couple different colors of beads in this little packet here. I have some thin ribbon that could be used. haven't quite figured out what I'm using for the black stripes and the antennas and legs. I'm going to use some sort of black material that I still need to get. But this is what I have as far as my plan for the Found Mosaic. So you need your sketch of your ideas down on paper. Remember, it doesn't have to be a super detailed drawing. Since this isn't necessarily a drawing class, it doesn't have to be totally perfect. The whole point of the sketch is to just get your ideas down on paper, see what it looks like, and then that gives you an opportunity to make any changes that you might want to make before we actually start arranging pieces of our found objects. So you want your sketch and some materials that you plan on using.